Okay, let's talk about Rise of Skywalker for a little bit. Real quick, I know I've not done any Star Wars videos yet, but I want to give you guys a little bit of backstory on my history with Star Wars as a franchise. I've been watching these movies, playing the games, reading the books, enjoying this franchise for over 15 years now. My parents got me into it when I was about 5 or 6, so it's been about 17 years. I've never felt so conflicted about a movie, about anything really with Star Wars. I've never felt so conflicted about anything. This movie, I don't want to hate it. And I don't think I hate it. Now, again, I want to say, I just got out of the theater a couple hours ago watching this movie. I'm recording this Friday the 20th at about 3:30 p.m. I watched it just at about 11:30. It was about, so I got out about 1:30. So I've been out of the theater for a couple of hours and had a little bit of time to digest what I think about this movie. I I like it, but at the same time I don't like it. This it's not really a review. I'm not going to give this a score or anything like that. I just want to talk about the movie and I wanted to make a video on it because I've been talking to myself about it and I figured the best way really for me to do this would be also to make a video because put my thoughts out there because why not? This will contain spoilers. I am going to talk about just about everything in this movie, so be prepared. If you have not seen the movie, this is not the review. This is not the place for you to be. This is not the video for you. Click off and come back when you've seen the movie. Or if you don't care, then stick around. That's fine too. So, I went into this movie knowing all the spoilers. I, of course, kept up with all the leaks and all the spoilers, and I knew what was going to happen. But this is something where those spoilers really took away from the movie because they lowered my expectations because I had a general idea of what was going to happen in this movie. Now, and that's not always the case for me though, because I'll give you an example. Earlier this year, at the beginning of the year, I saw Dragon Ball Super Broly, and I knew everything about that movie. And knowing what happened enhanced the experience for me because I didn't have to worry about all that story stuff. I just had to watch the cool fights. In this, even though I knew what was happening, I couldn't stay away from the problems that the narrative has. This movie is a narrative mess. They bounce around from planet to planet, plot point to plot point, and they introduce all this new stuff and then never explain it. In the first couple of minutes of this movie, we are told, "Oh yeah, Palpatine says I was dead, but I'm not." Okay, that's great. He's like a Force zombie or what? Are we getting Force zombies now too? Are we going to be making Death Troopers canon? The book? Good book, by the way. Are we making that canon now or what? Because it doesn't make sense how Palpatine is still alive. Even if we assume that, it's just the dark side. Okay, cool. Why doesn't everyone use that then? Doesn't make sense to me. I don't even know why he'd want to come back to life, though. I don't know why he would. And again, maybe it's just... And I understand what they're doing here. They're still... Like this whole saga, this whole trilogy has been... They're still pandering to that older audience. And maybe I shouldn't say pandering. But they're still trying to appeal to that older generation who saw, oh hey, that's Luke Skywalker. That's Emperor Palpatine. That's Han Solo. That's Lando Calrissian. And this trilogy is still leaning on all those old characters. The entire crux of this movie is Palpatine. The main characters of this movie feel like side characters. Rey, Kylo, Finn, Poe, they feel like side characters. They don't feel like... It doesn't feel like their story. It still feels like Palpatine's story. And I guess in a way that does reflect back onto Rey, because Rey is, of course, Palpatine's granddaughter. But it's still, I'm still really confused about that. Why there's still, 3 movies in with established characters, why they're still leaning on those old characters. And why they can't just let them go and write a good story. And they've done that. They have let those old characters go in other forms of media. The Mandalorian, for example, has absolutely nothing to do with the rest of the movies before it, or even the movies that are running concurrently right now. And it's an amazing story. And again, all those characters are new. There's not anything really... we have elements from the old stuff, obviously. The Empire, Mandalorians, everything like that. But it's not so direct as it is in the sequel trilogy. Because again, we're still leaning on the old characters and their problems and their story to create this one. When it really should have been... this should have been a story of Kylo and Rey. And that's exactly what the movie tries to be. It tries to be a story about Kylo and Rey and their sort of dichotomy and coming together, but it also then becomes Palpatine's story. It's more about Palpatine than anything else. Rey being a Palpatine changes nothing about this story. It only serves to give Palpatine a real reason why he'd want to turn her to the dark side. It gives her a kind of a BS reason. It gives him kind of a BS reason to be there. He didn't need that. He could have just recognized, hey, these two have a connection in the Force. I can use that. Like he always fucking does. That's Palpatine. Palpatine doesn't give a shit about his family. So, it just frustrates me that, like I said, we're still leaning on Palpatine. Him being in the story is not necessarily a bad thing. The story being entirely focused around him is the problem. And him being the entire focus of the story from beginning to end. It's all about Palpatine. And there's some good moments. And, I'm bouncing around a lot because the movie does. But there's some good moments in here. And there's some good, genuine character development for Kylo. There's a little bit for Rey. And we also see, Finn and Poe get some really good moments together. We see them all kind of get that moment as well. But it doesn't matter. Because that's not what the story's about. The story is about Palpatine. And them trying to... and whether you are with him or against him, it doesn't matter. Because again, that's the story... this is the story of Palpatine now. Rey is an agent to make that story happen, as is Kylo. And their sort of relationship being obviously antagonistic towards each other is the story of this movie. And that relationship now being tested again by Palpatine. Because we saw it a little bit in Last Jedi where they were kind of getting to where it's like, okay, maybe we can work together a little bit. Maybe we don't have to be enemies. And then that got thrown out the window. So now we see it again. Well, maybe we don't have to be enemies. Maybe Ben can come back to the light side. Or, they can work together. Gets thrown out again. I don't know. The movie just... I'm so confused. Like I've said before, I'm so confused by this movie. Because there's a lot of good stuff here. There's a lot of genuinely good moments. Leia's passing. Again, it strikes even harder because Carrie Fisher's really dead. And this is the last we're probably going to see of Princess Leia. We might get more, but I don't think we will. I hope that they honor her memory and leave her story alone and have her story really end there. With her last action being to save her son. The son she never gave up on. And I think that's a very poignant way to end her story. And again, and then of course bringing about his redemption and bringing him back to the light. I think that was a very good moment. And again, there are a lot of good moments like that. But they're so mired in narrative and technical, and really, just like I said, a narrative difficulty. Because the script is a mess. Again, they're bouncing around so much. It's hard to keep up with this movie. I had a hard time keeping up, and I knew everything. There were times where I'm still like, wait, what's happening? Oh, okay, now I understand it again. And that's a problem. Especially in Star Wars, 40 years worth of content. It shouldn't be impossible to follow these movies. I really just don't know. And I don't know if I want to see this movie again. I don't know. I walked out of Last Jedi very angry at that movie. This one, I'm just disappointed and confused. Like, where do we go from here? Do we go further into the future? Do we explore more of the past? Do we explore parts in between the movies? Like, where does this series go? I really don't know. But I don't want to be all negative here. I will say this movie looks and sounds very good. I will say that. The movie looks and sounds very good. The acting is decent to great. There's a lot of good chemistry between the actors. There always has been in this movie. They picked a really good bunch of actors here. And there were a couple of really good moments that I even knew about and kind of forgot. Like, for example, Hux being the spy. I forgot about that. I liked that moment. I also found it really funny when they just outright shot him in the guts and said, "You don't matter. See ya." And it was very much a, well, you've served your purpose in the story. See ya. It was very much that kind of moment. I did like Luke Skywalker here. I think that his one sort of appearance was very in character to Luke Skywalker. Where my complaint with Last Jedi was again that he wasn't very much like himself. And I understand why he'd still be kind of angry and jaded, but he's not one to give up. Luke Skywalker is not one to give up. And that came back in this movie. That really came back in this movie. With his talk with Rey on Ahch-To. I liked that scene, and I liked the little payoff of him lifting his X-Wing out of the water. I liked that little payoff from Empire Strikes Back. But again, it's all those little things from those old movies, and I have to keep coming back to that again. It's all those things coming back again from the old movies. We're still mired in that instead of moving to a new story, a completely new story, independent of those old movies. Not that those events don't affect the new movies, but that it's so dependent on those old characters still, and that's really what I'm trying to get at. Again, I'm having a hard time collecting my thoughts here, because again, the movie just has me so confused. But it's still relying again on those old characters. Instead of focusing on the ones that we do have, that are genuinely interesting. Kylo Ren is probably one of the most interesting characters that I've seen in Star Wars. I love his character. Finn being a stormtrooper. Focus on that a little bit, damn it. Poe's history, he is basically Han Solo. But again, he's got that, he's different from Han in that he was always a part of the Resistance. And he wasn't, at least to my knowledge, really pulled in by anybody else. He joined on his own after being a smuggler, a spice runner. It wasn't our main characters pulling him in, but he's still unique in that way. And it's, good writing. There's some good writing in there, but it's marred in a lot of bad storytelling. And the execution of this movie is very 50-50 to me. Again, there's a lot of stuff that I like. I love the shots with the Star Destroyers, with all the Star Destroyers. You know, Palpatine lifting the Star Destroyers out of the ice on Exegol. That's fucking cool. I loved that part. It's still so cool. And a lot of stuff with Palpatine was cool, but that's still the problem. It's all Palpatine. And I'm going to keep coming back to that because, again, that's kind of important. Because that's what holds this movie back is, like I've said a million times in this video, you can keep account of it, all of that reliance on the old characters. By this point, we should have moved past them. We should be focused on Rey and Kylo. That should be our story. And it's not. It's Rey, Kylo, and Palpatine. We now insert Palpatine as a third wheel into the story. It shouldn't be that. It shouldn't be there. He could be there as, and I'm not going to just sit here and say, oh, it shouldn't happen. He could be in the story as, I guess, as even a dark Force ghost. We can introduce that. You know, there are light side Force ghosts. Why can't there be dark side Force ghosts? We've established that Sith can become Force ghosts. This is in Legends. Like, Star Wars has established it. It can happen in Legends. Whether, you know, and it's even in the Clone Wars. So it is canon that Sith can become ghosts. So have Palpatine as a ghost, kind of dragging Kylo down to the dark side. And that would be a better use of Palpatine, rather than having him be, again, just another crux in the story. Having him be the crux of the story. And then again, have him be kind of that side character so that Rey and Kylo are our focus. That would have made this movie much better. Instead of relying on Palpatine to drive the story. I don't think that was a good idea. Now, again, contrary to that, I liked Lando. I really did. I thought that they used him sparingly enough that he was still felt in the story, but that he wasn't central to it. You know, anyone really could have gone out, I think, and recruited, you know, the galaxy to help fight on Exegol. I think anyone really could have. But, you know, Lando doing that, you know, feels appropriate for him. Obviously, he's a hero of the rebellion. Of the old rebellion and what would be the New Republic. You know, it helps a little bit, I think. But it's also that, again, they used him sparingly enough that didn't feel like he was essential. That could have been anyone. Could have been any rebel hero, and they would have had the same effect. And I also like that he didn't die. You know, this trilogy has a nasty habit of killing off those old characters. I like that he didn't die. Obviously, because again, that's, you know, they can use him a little bit later on and have him kind of appear and be a nice little eye popper for the old fans. Oh, hey, that's Lando Calrissian. I remember him. And even the people who liked this movie. Oh, hey, that's Lando Calrissian. He was cool in Rise of Skywalker. I remember him. You know, and it pops you a little bit. But, like I said, this movie it's got its good and it has its bad. Overall, do I think this is a worthwhile movie to watch? I don't know what to tell you. If you're, you know, diehard into Star Wars and you have to watch everything, sure. Go ahead. Watch it. If, you know, you're a casual, maybe you've played a couple of the games, maybe you picked up Battlefront and you saw that they got all the Rise of Skywalker stuff, I wouldn't. Everything's going to go over your head and you're not going to understand it. But other than that, again, it looks great, it sounds great, it's performed well, but the problem is still the story. And that really holds it back from being great. I'm going to wrap this video there. I hope you guys kind of enjoy. I hope you guys at least got something out of it. Maybe you didn't enjoy this. Maybe you didn't agree with it. That's fine. If you let me know what you thought of the movie, if you've seen it. And if you liked it, why'd you like it? If you didn't like it, why didn't you like it? If you're in the middle like me, what is keeping you from saying, I like this movie, I don't like this movie? Like I said, I hope you guys, got something out of this, got something of substance out of this, out of me talking about this movie. I really do love Star Wars, and I want good content, like The Mandalorian. I want more stuff like that, where it's good world building, story, characters, and good action. Because this movie has great action, but the rest of it kind of holds it down. But I hope you guys got something out of it. If you did, and you enjoyed hearing me talk about this, maybe consider hitting the like button. Maybe consider subscribing as well. I plan to start doing some more Star Wars content. Actually, right when I get done with this, I'm going to go record a video on Knights of the Old Republic. We're going to have a little fun series on that, and Knights of the Old Republic 2. We're going to have a nice little gameplay series on that. So, if you want to see that, consider subscribing. That'll be up later next week. But, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, you know what to do. I hope you have a great day, and I hope you have a great tomorrow. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.